if you have 5 minutes a day to spend on one thing that could make a ripple effect of a huge difference in every relationship in your life, would you do it? I'm hopefully going to convince you to do that in this video, okay? So here's the thing. When we sit with ourselves doing nothing, we are faced with ourselves. And that usually reveals our real relationship to ourselves. Sit for 5 minutes a day doing absolutely nothing. Sit in stillness and sit in silence. Ideally, if you can tolerate it, don't listen to anything and just sit. I recommend closing the eyes. Having the eyes open leads to a lot of mind fodder. But if you can sit in silence and stillness for 5 minutes a day, it'll make a dramatic difference in every relationship. Why? Because our tolerance and our eventual compassion for ourselves is directly correlated to that which we can extend to others. Meaning, if I'm having a hard time caring for others, or having my heart open, or being vulnerable, or being direct with other people, it means almost every time, actually every time, I just had to check, that we are neglecting an aspect of ourselves. If we can't be a certain way with others, it means that we are neglecting ourselves in related or the same way. So the more that I can tolerate and eventually appreciate love, and the end game is really full acceptance of ourselves. If we can do that, then it makes us so much more effective in our relationships. Because let's say that I am really compassionate towards other people, but not myself. Let's say I'm really caring towards others, but I'm really hard on myself. This is pretty true for me, actually. So we don't have to say, let's say. Let's just say I'm sharing with you, right? I can often be way more compassionate with other people and extremely hard on myself sometimes. You're probably like this if you're watching this video. Some people are the opposite. Is that true? They can be mean towards other people and kind towards themselves. That's a narcissist, actually. So they're probably not going to be watching this video, just to say. So if we're aware that we can extend that towards other people, but we can't do that towards ourselves, the experience that people are more likely to have is that they don't believe or maybe even feel the care and the love that we have. Why? Because the care and the love that we have for them is hollow. It's not whole. We're not bringing all of who we are to that relationship. We're neglecting a part of ourselves. And without a doubt, they can feel it. If these people that we're talking about are your kids, they can absolutely feel it because they haven't calloused themselves to the world yet, most likely. And on some level, they can feel it. They may not be able to articulate it, but if you watch their body language, and if you someone else asked them in confidence what they thought of you, they'd probably talk about how you're insecure or how you give so much, but you don't give enough to yourselves. Teenagers especially, of the thousands that I've worked with, are this perceptive. And I love speaking with them about this, about you, if you're a parent, because they tell me these kinds of insights that are just so profound. Even the young people that you think are not that aware, they feel it. They are incredibly aware, especially at this day and age. So all this to say, when we sit for 5 minutes with ourselves, we strengthen a certain type of, let's call it a muscle, a certain ability, let's call it, that has us, in the beginning, it'll feel like tolerating, and you'll actually come up with a lot of reasons for why you can't do it, most likely. That you get distracted, that the house isn't quiet enough, that you don't have the right chair, that your back hurts. There's a lot of reasons that will come up into forms of different resistances that'll usually be external. Sometimes it'll be internal. And I can assure you that if you practice this and even start to get a little bit longer and practice it on a daily basis, the results that you will get, not only for yourself, but in your relationships, will be that people will start to appreciate you more. Why? Because you're not going to be as anxious and you're not going to be as depressed and you're not going to have as low energy. You're not going to be as quick to judge and slow to forgive. All of these different aspects of your personality will start to shift. You'll become more patient. Why? Because you'll be patient with yourselves. You'll become more accepting of others. Why? Because you'll accept yourself more. You'll start to see how judgy you can be towards yourself. And if you can navigate that judgment and gradually turn it into compassion through the acceptance of the judgment that you have for yourself, you will become so much less judgy and more compassionate with other people. And I'm a living example of this, and I've also trained many people to do this as well. When we start to foster that relationship with ourselves via sitting with ourselves in stillness and in silence, it has this effect where we become more whole and full. And the people that are important to us in our lives can feel that wholeness, and they appreciate us more. And what happens? The relationships always get better. Or, let me say, most of the time they get better, or you realize that they no longer serve you. And you step away from those relationships, making new for a new relationship that will fill the space that one vacated, right? So all this to say, I think this is worth 5 minutes of your time. Find 5 minutes whenever you can during the day to do this. Ideally, it's at the same time each day or the same-ish time. Same place is really great too. And as you're practicing, just be with yourself. Be with yourself. It'll probably be very unpleasant in the beginning. And I mean, I've been practicing this for a long time, so it's not fair to say, but it's been 20 years of doing this, about an average an hour a day. So I probably have, 20-ish thousand hours of doing this essentially. And I cherish it now. I cherish the time by myself in stillness and silence when nothing else is going on. And you can have this. You can have this for yourself, and it will absolutely transform every relationship in your life. You've got this, and all my best.